Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'd like to introduce my special guest, Nancy Rynes. She is an artist, speaker, and author of a best-selling book, Awakenings from the Light, which details her near-death experience and the messages she brought back from the other side. Nancy is called by many of her friends the Atheist who went to heaven. Has that piqued your curiosity? It sure grabbed my attention. Well, Nancy, thank you for being on my show.
Hi, Marianne. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being on the show. There's a lot, oh my goodness, there's a lot that I would like to ask you. You just had this amazing experience. Yeah, and I want to let you just share with the viewers, the listeners, a little bit about what it is that your experience, how you got to the point you are today.
Okay. I'll try to keep it brief because I can sort of ramble sometimes if I get involved with the story. So I'll try to keep it brief.
Well, hey, I read your book and it was just, I mean, it just, touches the heart. I mean, all the things that you've been through, but I'd love for you to go ahead and share that, and then we can chat away about just all the wonderful things that have happened since then. So.
All right. Well, a couple of years ago, I was actually an atheist, and that's why, when you introduced me, you said my friends know me as the atheist who went to heaven, and that's sort of what happened. I was in a bike versus car accident in January of 2014, and of course I was on the losing end. That means I was on the bike, and during the accident itself, I didn't have an NDE. I had a really bizarre experience that I relate in the book, and I really don't know how to describe it. It's really more of I guess you would call it an out-of-body experience, but I was so badly injured during that crash that a couple of days later I needed surgery to repair my spine. I had broken my spine in many, many, many places. I don't remember the final count, but it was a lot. But I had one shattered vertebrae in my lower spine that needed to be stabilized, and it was during the surgery to repair that shattered vertebrae that I died on the operating table. My heart rate stopped, my breathing stopped, and I found myself in a glorious place, undescribable, really. It was, beauty to the eye for sure. There was I was standing on a high meadow and a hilltop overlooking mountains and valleys and forests and beautiful pearly sky, and there was energy and light flowing through everything. But really what struck me right away, it was the one thing that made me think, wow, I must have died on the operating table, was I could feel the presence of what I will call the divine. And there was a sense of huge, huge, huge unconditional divine love flowing through everything. It was a part of everything around me.
Okay. And when you talk about you can feel the presence of the divine, what was that like? Was it something, just a knowing, or was it something that you sensed?
It's very difficult to describe because it was all of those things. I knew it. Mm-hmm. I could feel a vibration energy that I knew was the vibration of love, of unconditional love, and it was flowing through me. It was like, like wind flows through the trees, this energy that I knew was love, divine love, was flowing through me as well, through every molecule of my being. It was there, just supporting me and going right through me.
Was that energy flowing through everything around you?
It was. It was at the heart of everything, every inch of every hill and tree and molecule in the sky. It was all, what was told to me was that it was all made of divine love. Heaven was in large part structured on divine love. And
wow, that's interesting.
I could see it. In fact, there was almost an energetic glow to everything. That was also a manifestation of this divine love that was there through everything.
Sounds like a very beautiful place. And before we go a little bit forward in the story, this part I just think is important about the accident, just because of how, people's habits nowadays, and it's something I wanted to talk about a little bit. You actually were hit by a driver that was texting. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was very involved with her phone and didn't know that she hit me. And luckily there was a man driving behind her in a separate vehicle who saw what happened, and he did probably some very illegal maneuvers to get in front of her to stop her from driving because she didn't see me. She was so busy with her phone that she didn't know she hit me.
That man is just an angel, I'm telling you. Showed up at the right time to do
I had a lot of that happen. So that, during experiences. Yeah, during that accident I had, just happens to have been an ER physician who happened to be in the car that was driving behind me. And
that's lucky. Oh my goodness.
And another eyewitness was a trauma nurse, so she was there at the scene.
All these people, they were treating you at the scene?
Right, yeah.
Before the paramedics showed up?
Before the paramedics showed up. They really, truly did save my life.
Have you connected with any of those people since the accident?
Well, I did. Actually, the physician took care of me in the hospital. He followed me into the ER, and he happened to be the on-call trauma doc at the ER. So he came right in with me, and we spent the rest of the afternoon together.
And he definitely, you had all of your angels in the right place at the right time.
I did, yeah.
I mean, if one is to experience near-death experience, that would be the way it would be. You would have it set up, just because. I mean, that is such a traumatic thing. So
I was very fortunate.
I just had to go back to that portion because I just had a little bit more questions in regards to how that had transpired, and and kind of going back to you pass away on the table. Quickly, how long were you gone for? It
was between 3 and 5 minutes. It was how long in this plane in Earth time. That's how long I was gone.
You were gone, and then and basically the next thing you realize is that now you're in this place that is beyond beauty.
It is. It's so hard to describe. Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing.
Of your time that you were there, what was your most favorite, was memorable or favorite thing that happened?
Oh my goodness. The most fun that I had really was toward the end of my whole time. Eventually there was a female figure, a female spirit that came and spent time with me and talked with me and told me many things, and we shared, a lot of learnings, and she helped me quite a bit. But toward the end of my time there, this is crazy. I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but she decided to have some fun, and we were on the top of this hill with some puffy clouds in the sky, and she literally laid down in the grass and started looking for cloud animals in heaven. And I was like, I can't believe that you're doing this. So I just laid down and joined her, and we started looking at rabbits and horses and dragons up in the clouds. So that was the most fun and favorite memory that I have. But there's so much more. It's just amazing.
Well, do you think that, and we'll get to this being in just a moment, I want to wrap back around to that. Do you think that she was prompting you to do this, to either relax you or to at least let you cut loose and have fun? Because, hey, now you're an atheist and you're in heaven. I mean, how much more uncomfortable can you be?
I was pretty uncomfortable, really, gotta tell you. I was nervous and upset through some of this, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, she was definitely doing this to lighten the mood and to get me to laugh a little bit, because she said, heaven's not all about seriousness and spirituality and God. And she said, we have fun too. And she wanted me to know that. Imagine that. It's fun up there. So she wanted me to experience some of the play, some of the joy, and to remember that that's part of life here on earth too. It's not just a heaven thing.
Yeah. Well, and so that brings me to my next question. With that being uncomfortable, being an atheist in heaven, I mean, did you ever ask yourself, why would God let an atheist in heaven?
I asked myself that. A lot of other people have asked that too. Like, that's one of the first questions that I was asked once I started talking about this, was why would God let an atheist into heaven? And the reality is that is our home, our spiritual home. Every person really has a spark of the divine inside. We are all children of God, if you will. And it doesn't matter what we think about God or the divine or spirit. We're welcomed back home when it's our time to go home, as long as we, make that effort. We make that choice. And so I was up on that hilltop when I first arrived, and I didn't realize that was my choice. That was my choice to stay there. I could have denied the whole thing and, probably gone off into some blackness or grayness and waited for my surgery to be over. But that was I accepted what I was seeing and feeling. I realized, everybody else was right. There really is a heaven, and I'm happy to be here. And the divine was there to welcome me back. And the divine is there to welcome anybody back. It wasn't just me.
Do you think do you think the reason you didn't go into like a void or a darkness while the surgery was happening was maybe there was something, just within your being that always knew that was a truth? Or for you to be able to accept being in that place, there's some part of you that must have thought, well, hey, this is really where I belong.
Well, I think you're right, because when I was a child, I was very spiritual. And I sort of had it beaten out of me through a lot of different things that happened. And part of that also was going into the sciences in university and learning, physics and chemistry and geology and all that stuff.
And you have to prove everything. Yeah.
Right.
You have to quantify everything and prove it.
Exactly. You have to be able to touch it and feel it and smell it, right?
Yeah.
At least, right. So I really did want to believe in something, but I didn't have any evidence for it. And so I think I was getting to the point in my life where I really was ready for something. I just didn't know what, and it turned out to be I needed a spiritual awakening. And so when I died on the operating table, I think you're right. My soul was ready for it. My soul knew that this was home, and I'm going to, my soul was probably saying, well, I'm going to show that human called Nancy that this is really what reality is. This is our home, and bring her back to where she needs to be. And it just felt right, and I just accepted it and embraced it once I was there.
And I know, and our listeners, I highly encourage you to buy the book, because just the experiences that Nancy went through, the initial experiences of the NDE, was actually pretty horrific. It was just a lot of trauma, a lot of injury that went with that. But looking back on all of everything that has happened over the last couple of years, would you, think that this is probably was like one of the best things that ever has happened to you, even though it's kind of hard to say it that way, because of the injury experience, but then you've also have this amazing experience on the other side that very few people have this type of story to tell.
Yeah, I'm extremely grateful. And when I think about it too hard, I get kind of choked up still. I mean, even though it was horrible physically, and it took a long time to recover from it, and in some respects, I still am recovering.
I can imagine. That was, I mean, if I remember correctly, it was either 24 or 25 major bones that you broke. I mean, you were in really bad shape when they got that woman to finally stop that car.
Right. I was, well, technically the doctor said I shouldn't have survived. You know, they said that people don't survive these kinds of accidents, and they really don't know how I survived. And I survived really with only, I mean, I had a lot of the broken bones, obviously, but I only had 2 scratches on my skin. I kid you not.
Oh, my goodness.
two very small scratches on my skin, and that was it. I mean, it wasn't. My niece came in to the hospital a few hours later after the accident, and she said, "I can't believe you look so good." She was expecting, I don't know what she was expecting, but she said, I mean, I wasn't even bruised. I didn't bruise.
It's just interesting from hearing the story. One would expect that. One really would, because, I mean, just people getting into normal fender benders end up with injuries. But this was pretty intense.
Yeah.
So,
so I am grateful for it, even though it was harsh, and it was an awakening that I needed. I just wish I hadn't needed something quite so traumatic.
To bring it about, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, let's talk a little bit about this being that showed up. And why don't you describe this individual? I hear you using she, and I heard about that in the book. I read about that in the book. But why don't you talk a little bit more about that for our listeners?
Okay. Well, she came up on me not too long after I arrived, and I say she kind of with some hesitation because she told me that it was really kind of a cloak she was wearing to make her more comfortable for me to deal with. So she was truly a being of spirit and wore this cloak of a feminine presence really to make it easier for me to interact with her and not be terrified. I mean, I was kind of verging on panic a few times.
Oh, I can imagine, because all of a sudden you're in this place and you're like, what's going on? You know, what's happening?
Yeah.
I'm not even supposed to be here. You know?
Right, I'm supposed to be going the other direction.
Well, you know, you're here, and all the things that you up to that point have believed to be true have now just been disproven, you know?
Yeah, my knowledge base has been turned upside down. And
I am sure.
That was harsh, yeah. So, there were quite a few times that I was terrified, but she took this form, a very peaceful form. It looked like she wore some kind of like a drapey linen type of robe with a skirt or something like that. Very beautiful pearlescent gray, like a pearl, really. It kind of shone like a beautiful gray pearl. And I couldn't really get a good look at her face. The whole time I was with her, I could sort of sense it, but I couldn't tell you exactly what her face looked like. It was a little bit fuzzy. But she was very calming and very loving, and you know, I got the sense that she and I had known each other previously, and I can't relate her directly to anyone that I knew in this life, so it could be that she and I knew each other from before I was born. I don't know, but there was definitely some familiarity there, like she was an old friend.
And so that's a sense that you have from that. I mean, and now we've gone from being an atheist, and now we're talking about reincarnation. And so,
I know. All in one fell swoop, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure you were over there just probably holding your head a few times. What is going on, you know?
You know, but at the same time, realized that I was home and that this was real. This was my real home.
You feel that truth.
Mhm.
Did this being ever tell you why, and I know you've mentioned this a little bit before, but why God allowed you in heaven?
Well, I mean, that's our home, and God allows basically everybody in heaven. That's where we all belong, and we can choose not to be there. We make a choice. When we pass on, we can choose not to go. Or there might be some things that, we're carrying fears with us when we die that are overwhelming, or, certain things that we have to work out before we can make it all the way there. And like her, some beings choose to go on all the way into heaven and then kind of come part way back to help others out. So I was allowed in.
Teachers. Yeah.
Right, yeah, but I was allowed to go that far because God is love and God is welcoming, and it's very much like the tale of the prodigal son in the New Testament. And as God is the father in that tale, the divine welcomes us back if we want to be back, and I certainly wanted to be there. I tell you what, after just a few minutes, I knew I didn't want to leave.
Oh, I can definitely imagine. I mean, it sounds like a beautiful and wonderful place. And then I know there's much more to the story, and we'll get to that in a minute, but I'm just dying to know here. So, you have this near-death experience. You go to this beautiful place. You're, spending time with this wonderful being. And then you come back. When you got back, what did you talk to the doctors about this, or anyone that was treating you about what you had experienced?
Well, at first, the only person I told at first was the hospital chaplain, and she was not at all surprised. She was very supportive.
That's fabulous.
And interestingly enough, when I was brought into the ER, I was adamant with them that I did not want a chaplain in my room ever because I was an atheist. And I told them, don't send a chaplain to see me because I don't want to see one.
So
and
they must have been pretty surprised when you said, hey, that chaplain, can you have her come my way? I need to chat with her.
Well, and actually, I didn't ask for one. She just walked in, and normally they don't do that, but I talked to her recently about that, and she said she was doing her rounds, and she knew that on my chart it said that I didn't want to see a chaplain, but she had this overwhelming knowing when she was outside my room that I needed to speak with somebody, and so she walked in.
Oh, wow.
And I just let loose.
Yeah, you probably asked her if she had anyone else to see because you're ready to fill up her afternoon, right?
Right.
With all that you had to talk with her about. Now,
I wanted to make sure first that I wasn't crazy. I didn't know what this thing was that I had experienced, and she said it was very real, and it's called the near-death experience, and she explained the whole thing to me, and I was like, wow, there's actually terms for this.
Well, it sounds like she was very educated with near-death experiences, and maybe have come across enough that she realized immediately that that's what happened to you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she may have also been tipped off by the anesthesiologist as well, because I came up out of anesthesia crying and screaming and wanting to go back. So he may have tipped her off.
Did you? I guess I can understand. I mean, here we are, kind of bumping our way around down here, and then we end up in heaven. It's so beautiful and peaceful, and it would be a shock to have to come back.
It was, yeah. It was a big shock. Just to have to deal with gravity again, and the physical nature of life, and And for me, it was pain and recovering and learning how to walk again and learning how to speak again and trying to learn how to read again. And, it's just a lot. It was a lot to deal with physically.
Yeah, that is a lot to have to relearn and become familiar with and to go through, absolutely to go through.
Yeah.
Now, the treating doctor, did you ever talk to him about what had happened to you?
He almost a year. I was really afraid to say anything to the surgical team and to my doctor, my primary care doc I'd had quite a while. He was really taking care of me after the surgery because he's just a holistic kind of guy, and so my surgeon wanted my primary care doc to take care of me after the surgery. So I got up the gumption, and I was a little bit nervous because my primary care doc and my surgeon both had been educated at Harvard Medical School. And, of course, I had this thing in my brain like, oh, these guys are never going to believe me, or they're going to lock me up and throw away the key and put me in a padded cell.
You're thinking you're getting a one-way ticket to a padded cell. I just
right.
don't know. Because here you're going to talk to these gentlemen. They've got degrees, went to the best colleges, have degrees,
right.
just papering the wall. And here you're going to talk to them about, this experience you had while you passed away on the table.
And I was surprised, though. The first thing out of my doctor's mouth was, oh, my gosh, that's so cool. And he said, oh, my gosh, I totally believe you. And he's quite a bit younger than me, so he that's exactly how he talks. And he said, I'm jealous. And his whole take on it was, it's very real. He said, I believe in spirituality. I believe in God. I believe in all this. And you really did have a true NDE, and I'm glad you told me. And he talked about it with me for quite a while, and really helped me work through kind of the medical and scientific side of things, because I was still somewhat afraid that people would call me crazy. And here I have a Harvard-trained doctor telling me I'm not crazy.
Well,
and that it's
I'm sure that,
an amazing experience.
That must have been just so comforting. And I would really bet that these doctors have a great sense of spirituality just because of all the things that they have to see day in and day out. With people coming in with, extreme trauma, extreme, injuries, they must, to some degree, I would believe, have seen things along the way that develops a greater spirituality for themselves.
And that's what he said, too. He said a lot of doctors won't talk about it, but they do experience a lot during during traumatic, the healing of traumatic injuries, or through being there while someone dies. And I've come to find out, he said, as he's been witness to patients dying, he has seen some extremely incredible things. And most doctors won't talk about them, because they're things like shared death experiences, or, seeing the spirit leave the body. He's seen that happen quite a few times, but a lot of doctors are still very uncomfortable about speaking to anyone about those things.
And
he was very open.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's good, and it's understandable because they, again, here we're dealing with scientific minds who, again, you have to be able to see it, touch it, quantify it to be able to, know that it's a real thing. According to how they're trained. But, I think that's a fabulous thing, that we're seeing more of openness with doctors in regards to when people do have near-death experiences, and maybe an openness for themselves for their own experience that they're having as they're seeing patients and these things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because some of them, some docs see so many amazing things, or feel so many things, or witness stuff that we can't even think about. And, you know, to have them hold it in just doesn't feel authentic to me. And I think it hurts them as well. And I'd love to have them have some kind of a forum amongst themselves, you know, even if they don't tell the rest of us out here in the public, but I'd love for them to be comfortable enough to speak about it amongst themselves.
Well, and they may get the opportunity to do that. I understand that in March you're going to be speaking at a symposium in Vail.
I am.
You know, I would invite your whole medical team, saying, I hope I see you guys there, you know.
Yeah, we'll be. I've been honored to speak with Dr. Eben Alexander up in Vail in March, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about is, you know, how the medical community views the death and dying process and consciousness as well, the nature of being conscious, and what that means for them and the rest of us all. So that'll be up in Vail.
Yeah, I think for anybody that would be a fabulous symposium to attend, you know, because we all have, you know, friends, mothers, fathers, daughters, cousins, relatives that go through the death process, and to have a greater understanding of what that means.
Right.
You know, and then when we do see something, how to not write that off, you know, as, well, I think that's just my imagination, you know, really looking for really the miracle in all of it. So,
and it is, and it's part of maintaining that sense of mystery. You know, Eben Alexander talks about that, and it's one of the things that I talk about in my book too, because I don't have all the answers. I only saw just
come on now, you were there for a month.
I was there for a long time, but I still don't have all the answers, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, you know, having to learn things on my own and venture out from here, and also to have things still be a mystery, because that makes it fun and enjoyable to me.
There's that beauty with that. And for our readers who are not familiar with your story and have not read your book, even though you were clinically dead from between 3 to 5 minutes, from what I read, you said that you had been on the other side of it. Was it 3 to 5 months?
That's what it felt like to me. I'd say at a minimum 3 months. It felt like I was there for a whole semester in university. That's sort of what it felt like.
Education.
Right.
You were there for the big education.
Right.
You know, well, and why don't we talk about that? So you have this being that's spending time with you. What happened? What did you guys spend time talking about?
Well, you know, she told me that she was there to help me out, and I thought, wow, she's going to help me go on to heaven, because I knew I wasn't all the way there. I knew I was in kind of a holding pattern or a waiting room, and, you know, some things needed to happen with me before I could go on to heaven. And so I thought she was going to help me prepare myself to keep going further, you know, to finally go into the light fully. And she said, no, that's not what I'm here for. And I'm like, what? She said, I'm here to help you out so that when you go back to your life, you can make your life better, and you can make the lives of those you know in your life better. And I sort of balked at that.
Well,
I didn't want to come back.
Here we feel like we've got our personal, tour guide of heaven, and then we've got to, and then to find out that, oh no, you're really going to be going back.
Well,
yeah. We're going to stop here and take a quick break. We will be right back with Nancy Rynes. Again, she's The Atheist Who Went to Heaven. Awakenings from the Light is her book. And you just stay tuned, and we'll be back in a minute. You don't want to miss this part. She's going to be talking about the other side, so stay tuned.
In Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074, 630-881-1074.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. I have special guest Nancy Rynes here talking about her near-death experience. She just wrote her book, Awakenings from the Light. I highly suggest picking that book up. And so we were just on the topic of heaven, and she's spending time with this being on the other side. So tell us a little bit more about that. So you don't have a personal tour guide of heaven. She was there for another reason.
Right. She was my teacher. She was there to teach me how to live a better life here on earth, really. She did teach me some things about heaven as well as part of that process because everything's interrelated, but her primary focus was really getting me to change my life back on earth because I wasn't living the life that the divine really had wanted me to live. I wasn't living up to my divine potential, is how she put it.
So this information translatable for anyone else? Was it just specifically for you, or is this translatable to anyone that feels like, hey, I feel like I'm off my path. I need to, I need some help on getting back, and whatever that means for me, A lot of it is translatable. The things that were specific to me, I actually did not put in the book because they were very personal to me, and I don't want to, burden anybody else with that. But what I put in the book were the things that I felt and my guide felt would be applicable to anybody. And granted, each person that reads the book or that reads my blog, they might not resonate with all of those things because they might not need to learn that particular topic, right now or ever in this life. But I put about a dozen different specific topics in there that she covered. Now, she covered a lot more than what I put in that book, but, she covered things like the importance of love, and not just in heaven, but on earth, and how love works here on earth, and how gratitude interacts with love, and, the importance of connecting with others here on this planet and working together rather than working against each other. The importance of things like monitoring how you act and what words you speak to other people and to yourself. What are the words that you're speaking to yourself in your own mind? So things like that. For many people, that's a big hurdle. It is. We can be kind and nice to other people, but tearing ourselves down with our own words is a very common thing. Most people. Yeah,
what's your internal dialogue like? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now,
you can tear yourself apart. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. The same standards we have for other people are not the standards we set for ourselves. A lot of times we do have unrealistic expectations for what it is that we expect from ourselves, but we've never hold everyone to that same standard.
That's
so
right.
That must have been a very rewarding experience to have her discuss that with you, and kind of a little bit of a relief.
It was, and it was also very hard because I knew I was, I hate to use the word guilty, but I was guilty of doing a lot of this stuff to myself and to other people around me. It wasn't necessarily my fault. It was out of ignorance and, how society treats us and how we grow up thinking certain on what we learn as kids. So it wasn't held against me that I kind of messed up a little bit in certain areas, but they were, this woman was just holding out these truths for me to take and bring into my own heart and incorporate them into my life.
Now, when she talked about gratitude, what did she say about that?
She had a lot to say about that.
I can imagine. Maybe we're not as grateful as we should be, just in our everyday life. Yeah.
We're not as grateful, and some of us are using gratitude in kind of a backhanded way to try to get stuff. And while feeling, being grateful is wonderful. Basically, gratitude is another form of love. In its purest form, feeling gratitude or feeling grateful is another expression of love, either to someone else, or to the divine, or, whatever. It's just another expression of love that you can send out to someone. But so many of us are taught.
You could receive gratitude from her and identify that as being gratitude, and you can send it back.
Right, and it's also, see, in heaven, one of the ways that the divine is constantly suffusing the beings there, those have passed on, with love. Love is just what the divine sends out. It's a flow of love. That's what the reality is. And there is a constant flow back to the divine of gratitude as the gift back. Oh. It's a gift back. It's a gift of love back for what we've been given. And that works here on earth as well as in heaven. So that's
absolutely, and you could physically see it.
I could see it. I could feel it. I could feel the energy hum. It was almost like being in an electrical field. When if you're in like one of those Tesla contraptions where the energy is zinging around and your hair standing up on your arms. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
That low hum that goes with it.
Right. So it's kind of a big, it's a circle of love. It's love and gratitude circulating back and forth. And that can happen here too, because the divine love is part of this plane too. It's part of the earthly plane. It's just harder to sense it for us because of our physical nature. But we can express our love back not only by saying to the divine, I love you, but just really feeling gratitude for the gifts that we have. That's the best way to send love back. Yeah.
Now, were there any practices or tools that she gave you in regards to gratitude for you to use on a daily basis to be able to be in a more grateful place as you finish the rest of your journey here?
A lot of it for me, what she suggested for me personally was some mindfulness exercises and just trying to live more in the moment, mindfully in the moment, being present in the moment, and focusing on feeling rather than thinking, which is hard for a scientist.
Yes, it is. I have many friends who are very gifted and have scientific minds, and your mind's work in a different way. It's beautiful and fabulous, but at the same time, I'm sure it's very hard to get things to kind of quiet down.
It is, and it's hard to allow ourselves to feel sometimes. And so her suggestion was just to work on feeling the gratitude in the moment as much as I can, and then expressing it. And there is a little meditation that I go through in the book. If you're having trouble feeling gratitude, this is one of the things that she taught me how to do is just to learn how to feel it by taking some time in a quiet environment and focusing on some major event or amazing event that's happened in your life. It might be the birth of a child, or you know someone who helped you out a lot. Say, for me, it might have been my parents who helped me at the scene of the accident. But just
all
focus
those
on that.
people, yeah.
Right, yeah.
All those
just
angels
focus
that
on,
came to your aid, yeah.
Right, yeah. Focus on those angels in your life, and just think about all the things that they must have gone through to be able to help you out. And just allow yourself to feel that in your body, and feel that's kind of where the beginning feelings of gratitude are, if you don't know what that feels like. So I go through the whole thing in the book. It's kind of a 15-minute meditation if you want to take some time with it. But it really
definitely
does work.
It's a good place for someone to start. If they're like, how can I have more gratitude in my life? How can I be more thankful for all the wonderful things that are around me,
Right.
That is a tremendous way, fabulous way to start on that path and then develop it from there. Now,
go ahead.
Now, with your book, I know there are some things that you didn't put in the book because it's very personal for you, but if you could share one thing that wasn't in the book, what would you share?
Wow. That's a toughie. I think the biggest one was, it may not have been too terribly personal, it was just of huge scope that I still haven't had time to really sit down and think about it all that much. But there was a point during my stay there where I was shown an incredible vista in front of me, which was basically there's many stars, many stars. And I was at the edge of this field of stars, and instead of my spirit guide being with me, God was with me. God was next to me. And the divine was teaching me how to move and change things in my life. And the metaphor he was using was as he was moving the stars around so I could move the events in my life around. And he showed me how he kind of made creation, how he moved the stars and kind of nudged everything into place, and told me that I could do the same in my own life with the things in my life. And I'm still sort of reeling from that.
I can imagine. I mean, and what a metaphor to use, the vastness of, the galaxies. And then, and then being told that you can do that too. That really, for listening to that, for me, that says a lot about who it is you person. It says a lot about you for you to be in that position where, God's showing you just the vastness of who it is that you really are.
And we all are. It isn't just me. It's everyone that is at their core, at our cores, all of us have this bit of the divine, and we are a part of God. And God wants us to, the divine wants us to have fun and learn and enjoy and succeed. And in that moment, he was showing me that I really can change my life into something that is one that I want to live, and is one that is basically in tribute to the light and to what, he stands for, really. So he was showing me that I could do it. Yeah. I'm so grateful for it, truly.
Well, it almost sounds like that experience in itself could be the makings of another book. It sounds like there's a lot of information there that you will learn or that's been given to you just from that experience. It's such just an astounding experience.
And like I said, I haven't sat with that bit of it long enough to really wrap my entire being around it. So I'm still working on that piece of it. The other pieces that I put in the book are a little bit more practical in your daily life. How to be more loving and kind to people and to yourself and to the planet. But this other piece and a few others like it it's going to require a little bit more contemplative time on my part.
Well, I'm sure, the inward journey to really sit with that and understand all the messages, or at least a portion, because, how can we understand them all, dealing with a mind that can only comprehend so much, but, understand the messages that are there for you. When you have time and contemplate on that and come to a greater understanding about that experience, I'm curious about the other ones as well, let me know. I'd love to have you back on my show so we could talk about it.
All right, we'll do that.
Yeah. I really feel that has a profound message that is probably very translatable for a lot of people, but I'm not going to be a spoiler. We're going to save that for when you have that figured out. So.
I'll be happy to be back on and talk about it.
I'd love to have you back on, for most definitely. And before we wrap up here, I could talk to you all day about this. This is just a tip of the iceberg of the information that's in the book. I highly recommend buying Nancy's book, again, Awakenings from the Light. That's available on Amazon, in some bookstores, some Unity churches, and definitely on her website, nancyrynes.com. So, Nancy, I know you have a couple of events coming up where people can see you in person and purchase a book and also hear more about these experiences that you've gone through. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? All
right. Well, at any time, people can go to my website and see a list of what's coming up, and that's nancyrynes.com, NancyRynes.com. So I'll put a list of things coming up. Sometimes I'll give away free books and have all kinds of goodies on there. And you can sign up for a newsletter as well. But so on November 1st, which happens to be one of the 2 Days of the Dead, I'm going to be speaking in Boulder with another NDE friend of mine whose name is Rex Finskeld. And he and I are going to be speaking at the Boulder Public Library at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on November 1st. And it will be basically a kind of a town hall type of meeting, so people can get a chance to come in and ask questions and chat up the people that have gone on to the other side and come back and live to tell the tale. So that's on November 1st.
Okay, and I understand with that town hall meeting, even though it is an event that's open to the public, that I would highly suggest getting there early and nabbing your seat, because last time it was a sold out event. It was there were no seats, and people still kept trying to come in, and we had standing room only. So it was fun. Yeah. I'm also going to be doing some workshops that are yet unscheduled over the winter here in Boulder. So those, just watch out on my website for those. Those will be half-day workshops at different locations in Boulder, which will be more in-depth teachings about the book. So I'll take 1 or 2 chapters from the book and go through those in depth so people can get a deeper understanding of,
either the chapters and the topics themselves, and we'll go into some specific exercises as well. So you come away with some real things that you can do. And
so
then,
they'll leave with some real tools that they can use going forward.
Right.
In their lives. Okay.
Yeah, and I did one of these a couple of weeks ago. It was awesome. We had quite a few people. I think we had 20 to 25 people turn out. And we had some really great discussion and learnings and teachings, and it was a great time. I loved it, and I loved meeting everybody.
Oh,
so we'll
fabulous.
we'll do a few of those over the winter, and then March 14th this spring is the day that I will be speaking with Dr. Eben Alexander, and he's the author of. It's in Vail. He's the author of Proof of Heaven. And we will be speaking on the nature of consciousness and what NDEs can tell us about the consciousness experience. And like I said, we hope a lot of physicians will come up and listen to what we have to say and join in the conversation. I don't have the time for that yet, so if people just keep an eye on my website, when I actually know the time of day that will occur, I will post it there. But it will be March 14th.
Well, thank you, Nancy, for taking the time to be with us here today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.